Well, joining me tonight on Talking Pints is the leader of the House of Commons, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Conservative Member of Parliament for North East Somerset. And I have to say, Jacob, welcome to GB News.
Thank you.
Now, normally we provide drinks, whatever drinks the guest wants, and we provide them, and it can be a beer or it can be a glass of wine or a cup of tea or whatever it may be. But you have brought the drinks in for us. Just tell us what we've got here, please.
Well, we've got the cider that I make at home. So these are Rees-Mogg apples that my children throw into this fantastic musher that puts out the juice and obviously then all the remains of the apples, and then it sits in a barn for a year and comes out as cider. And we make about 30 gallons of it a year, which I have to give away because I only drink about a pint of it a week. So I don't get a huge amount.
What sort of strength is it, Jacob?
I have no idea. You
right.
taste. You tell. You're the expert.
Well, cheers. Cheers. This is the Rees-Mogg cider. Let's give it a go. Oh wow, that's real. That's real. Yeah.
I'm not going to drink it all whilst...
No, that's fine. You can afterwards. Jacob, you know, you're a man of many parts. You know, you're known predominantly as Member of Parliament, politician, but you've got lots and lots of interests in life. So let's start discussing something really important. We've been spent most of the programme on Afghanistan and the threat that it may pose here, and of course Parliament's back tomorrow. We'll come to that, but let's just begin with a great passion of yours, because I did bump into you briefly last Friday, because like you, I'm a cricket nut, and I love the Test game, I love the 5-day game. And I think when we met on Friday, we thought, well, England are battling back and doing quite well. And then on the Saturday, Joe Root gets another magnificent big 100. And the whole thing fell to pieces. Were you there yesterday?
I was there yesterday, looking forward to an England victory. And I was there with my 3 elder sons, with Peter, Thomas and Anselm. And we went full of beans and thinking that it would all be very good. And then there was that amazing partnership, wasn't there?
The Indians,
Yeah. And Bumrah, who averaged 2 or something before the series began, getting 30-odd. And I must confess, that's one of the things I love about cricket. It's such fun when somebody who can't really bat, we all cheer when Anderson scores a few runs, because it's just unexpected and it lifts the game, even when the result isn't then what you want. It's just great to see somebody doggedly battling away.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, England were firm favourites to win.
Absolutely.
You know, no question England were going to win, and in the end, India win. And, yeah, English cricket, not a great advert. We're not a great side, really, are we?
We've got some great players. Root is absolutely magnificent. Anderson is heroic.
Yes.
Anderson is a reassurance to all of us who are getting on a bit, because by cricketing standards, he's quite an age. And
I had Geoffrey Boycott sitting in that seat last Thursday, and he said the same as you. We've got some world-class players, but overall, we could do better. But I'm with you, actually. The joy of sport is its complete unpredictability. And actually, yeah, I have to say, well done, India. Yesterday, they did incredibly well. Jacob, one of the things that those that really know you understand is you first appeared on television aged about 11 with the Financial Times. And I think at the time your father was running something called the Fleet Street Letter. He was, yes. Yeah, he actually offered me a job there once, believe it or not. I don't think I've ever told you that. He did. He did.
But my father was a great admirer of yours.
I know he was. But you've always been interested in investment, in stock markets and what to do with money. And there's something new has arrived. We knew about it back in the 70s, into the 80s. It damaged people's savings in a way I don't think anything else can. It's the I word, it's inflation. And we've got the Bank of England and the Fed in America saying, oh, don't worry your little heads, it'll just be a little short-term thing and it won't be a problem. And yet I've always taken the view that inflation is a disease of money. And once you catch that, nearly often caused by governments and by excessive spending and borrowing. And then once you get that disease, it's very difficult to get rid of. So just with your investment manager hat on, how do you see inflation?
Well, I think going to the basics of economics, if you increase the money supply beyond a reasonable level, it has an inflationary effect. And it's very difficult to work out the precise causalities. So monetary policy in the 1980s didn't particularly work because it was hard to say a growth in the money supply of a particular measure of a certain level is directly inflationary. But that the simple point that if you create an enormous amount of money, it has to go somewhere. Money must find a home is true. And there was a very important House of Lords report. Lord Forsyth, Michael Forsyth, was, I think, the chairman of the committee that put out, warning us that we mustn't get addicted to free money. And I think that's right. And you've begun to see, partly because of trade distortions created by the pandemic, so containers being in the wrong part of the world and therefore transport costs going up, the beginnings of inflation. You've seen a very rapid increase in wages, which is in part extremely good because you want people to be getting better off. You want a real increase in wages, but it mustn't be too fast because that leads to inflationary pressures. So I think you're right to be concerned. I'm pleased that the Bank of England has said that it will look at reducing quantitative easing before raising interest rates. I think that's, I mean, obviously the Bank of England's independent. It's not for me as a minister to be saying what they ought to be doing. But it seems nonetheless that that is the right way around, that it's withdrawing some of that excess liquidity that was needed to deal with a crisis and gradually normalising. Yeah. So I think the Bank of England...
So you think they're handling it the right way?
Is handling it
well, let's hope you're right.
The difficulty with all of this, always, is the speed of response. And sometimes you find that central banks have to act very suddenly, which risks creating an economic shock.
So investors need to watch inflation?
Very carefully.
Yeah, no, I think this is a view that I've formed very, very much. Now, everyone's back from holiday. Dominic Raab was on a beach in Crete or wherever he was and had to come home. And I guess, well, I mean, you probably staycationed this year, didn't you?
If I can possibly get away with it with the rest of my family, I would always stay.
You want just the aggro of planes
with
and...
6 children, going through airports is not fun.
Yes.
Whereas being in Somerset is a joy. So I sometimes, there's family pressure to go away, but being in Somerset suits me down to the ground. So yes, we're staycationing and a few days holiday at Lords is
Lords,
as well.
yes, and of course the House of Commons tomorrow.
And the House of Commons tomorrow.
Which will be, I was saying earlier to Darren McCaffrey, our political editor, it'll be a full House of Commons, or relatively full, for the first time.
That's right, we're back to normal. The exceptional COVID procedures have gone. People will have to turn up in person. There will be no more proxy voting. But it's really important that the House comes back to discuss an issue of the magnitude of our withdrawal from Afghanistan and the rapid advance of the Taliban, that this is about holding the government to account. And over recent years, there have been lots of constitutional discussions about whether Parliament should have a vote before military action. That always seemed to me to miss the point about what Parliament does. Parliament holds the government to account for its actions rather than writing out a blank cheque before the actions take place. So tomorrow,
I get that.
We'll see the really proper functioning of our Constitution with a debate led by the Prime Minister,
but in a sense,
closed by the Foreign Secretary.
But in a sense, Jacob, I mean, I get that, but it's a sideshow, because the reality is Biden did this. Biden made this decision. He didn't consult with us. He didn't consult with NATO. Whether he just got the wrong intelligence briefings or made his own mind up, I just don't know what happened here. But the truth is that Biden has made a fundamental error and a serious blunder.
Well, I heard you earlier discussing the relationship between the UK and the US in military terms.
Yeah, I'm worried about it.
But it's worth remembering that when Ronald Reagan invaded Grenada, he didn't tell the British government, and the Queen was head of state of Grenada. And
yes, and Mrs. Thatcher was furious. Yes.
But the habit of America acting is one of long-standing, and it is a recognition that America is the world superpower and we're not. We are an ally, and I therefore don't think we should be surprised that America decided on its policy first. That's how America acts, even
I think it goes further
when the president is somebody like Ronald Reagan, who you and I hold in the highest regard.
No, I mean, look, it goes further than that, actually, because, we've given travel for double-jabbed Americans into the UK without quarantine. They haven't reciprocated. The trade deal between the US and the UK has slipped down the agenda. So the special relationship is facing real problems. The difference between the big upset over Grenada and this is, one of the senior bosses of MI5 says it's likely to embolden jihadis living within Europe and within the United Kingdom. This is a decision that impacts upon us. I mean, do you feel let down by Biden?
No, I don't. The decision as you know, was initially taken by Donald Trump, that he decided that the withdrawal needed
But the question
to
was,
take
but
place.
the question was how?
Yes, I accept that, but the fundamental decision is an important one,
Yeah.
and that it was one made by America and which the UK government needed to follow. That the idea that we could go it alone is impractical, 19th century. No one is proposing that. It's not a rational thing to be doing. And I think the question now is how it is handled further, what we can do in discussions with neighbouring countries, with particularly Pakistan, and the other countries nearby with whom we have more or less friendly relationships. It's never easy.
No.
But the initial objective was achieved of making Al-Qaeda dysfunctional.
In 2002?
In 2002.
Yeah.
And then the withdrawal was always going to be extremely difficult. It's never easy to withdraw.
No.
There's never a good time to withdraw.
But this one was done without planning and thought, and there are thousands of nationals between the Brits and the Americans stranded there. But, I mean, Jacob...
And everyone's been very surprised by the speed of the advance of the Taliban.
Just shows you, if you believe experts, they're very often wrong, you see, because all the experts said that, you know, they would...
Fancy you saying that.
Well, it's all back to the Brexit referendum, and, you know, you and I are very much on the same side on that, and I think, you know, both emotionally involved in that. We believed in it with all our heart and soul. I was unhappy. We didn't fall out, but I was unhappy that you, in the end, voted for Mrs May's dreadful deal. But I'm not going to have a punch-up over that with you today.
Well, we got there in the end, and we got a
we've
new
discussed
leader.
that before. No, I mean, that's the point. I mean, thank goodness we got rid of Mrs May, and I like to think I played a bit of a hand in that. And we've got Boris and we've got Brexit done. It's not perfect. You know, the fishermen are angry, really angry. And if you drove from your constituency an hour and a half, 2 hours southwest to Brixham Market, or I recommend you don't at the moment, they really are jolly angry about it, the way it's worked out. But constitutionally, we finished up with Northern Ireland. It's been effectively annexed. What are we going to do, Jacob, to sort that out? Is the will there? I hear Lord Frost, who I think did a jolly good job as negotiator, and I hear him saying tough things. Are we going to sort out Northern Ireland? Because if we don't, I do fear the knock-on for the rest of the Union is quite significant.
Northern Ireland is a fundamental part of our country. Northern Ireland is as much part of our country
But it was.
as Somerset. No, it
was.
It still is. And you cannot allow the European Union to extract Northern Ireland from the United Kingdom. And you're right to say that the EU has not implemented what it agreed with the goodwill that we had a reasonable expectation could apply. It has not applied the flexibilities. It has not even recognised animals in the UK as being from the safest countries of all. And as the problem with rabies has always been the continent to us rather than us.
And she threatened us with that. She threatened to put the hard border back, and we know all of that. But does there come a point when we have to say, look, you've been completely unreasonable about this?
The British government is completely committed to ensuring that Northern Ireland remains a fundamental part of our United Kingdom. Lord Frost is, as you said earlier, a tough negotiator. The British government is going to ensure that Northern Ireland is protected.
There is work to be done.
There is work to be done, and it needs to be done at a sensible pace, and we need to try... You and I both want a relationship with the EU which is one of goodwill. And we want to get to that. But we need to understand, and you probably understand it better than I do because of being an MEP and perhaps being more intimately involved, that they feel very hurt still with us and are very angry with us, and there is still... Yes?
Oh, yeah.
And it is in our interests in the long term to have a friendly relationship with the EU. So we want to ensure that Northern Ireland is protected,
but at the moment, it's not being protected. No, I mean, this is work in progress. Jacob, one last thing to discuss with you before we're out of time. When I said you were coming on earlier, a lot of people said, Jacob Rees-Mogg, where's he gone? I mean, we had Mogmentum, we had this... There was a movement that suggested that Jacob could quite possibly become the leader of the Conservative Party, and what Jacob thought and what Jacob said on every issue was covered by all the newspapers from left to right, and we got to find out your views and your strong Christian faith and how you won't be bullied on social issues, and we learned all of those things. And this potential leader, and you've disappeared. Well, you're leader of the House. you make some witty remarks in the House, and that's all well and good, and the business of the House of Commons is very important. But, Jacob, you've disappeared.
Well, I'm here.
Have they... Well, I'm very pleased you are, but we haven't seen you doing interviews. We haven't seen... I mean, have they bought you off with this position, Leader of the House?
No, in government, as you know, you're bound by collective responsibility.
Yes.
And you have your area of responsibility and other ministers have theirs. My area of responsibility is the business of the House of Commons, the government's
but your fans want to see you, Jacob.
I'm delighted to come on your programme and hope you will invite me back again.
Well, there we are. We've got Jacob Rees-Mogg. He's turned up with his own cider. And I think if he drinks a few more of those, maybe we'll see a lot more of him. I want to thank Jacob Rees-Mogg for coming in for Talking Pints.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.